Okay, and we are on to part 3. And Mr. Wonderful has taken a sabbatical. He needed to spend more quality time with his wife. His loss. Anyway, turn the bike on here, and make sure the ignition's on, and hit the button. Fired right up. They suggest that you allow the bike to idle for like 3 minutes, I think it says, before you rev it or do anything with it. I notice a lot of people don't do that. I also notice their bikes will start smoking at about 10,000. It also eats your cams. And it can eat your main bearings too. A buddy of mine spun a main bearing. He basically hit the starter. The bike was already in gear. The clutch was already on. He hit the starter and, did a speed takeoff. As soon as the engine was started, I mean immediately as it came off the starter, the bike was already moving. And before he got down to the end of the street on that power takeoff, he spun a bearing, which basically that's inside the machine. The rod comes off. Anyway, you can look up bearings and you'll see what I mean. But basically the bearing welds itself to the crankshaft and spins inside the rod, which when it does that also closes off its oil port, and that will no longer get oil, and eventually that rod will just start knocking. And of course that's an expensive repair. So, and we also covered the clutch systems, and this is disengaged, and this is disengaged, sorry, and this is disengaged, and you want to have that little play there. Most bikes it's about 1/8 of an inch play. I think I got 1/4 in mine, maybe a little less. And then of course we have the shifter right down here, which is controlled by tapping down on it, tapping lightly. If you push too hard or pull too hard up on one, you will bend a shift fork inside your gearbox. So you never want to apply any more force than you would use than to say, I don't know, slide a bowling ball across a linoleum floor. Probably pretty close to about the amount of effort that you're going to want. Which if it's in its case, it's going to slide pretty easy on a linoleum floor, but it's going to take some effort to get it moving. And that's kind of the way they are. You probably just heard it pop there. Basically, before you put it in gear, you can see it's in neutral there by the light. Before you put it in gear, pull the clutch in, and then what you want to do is tap down on there. Now, it's flipped in gear, but the transmission hasn't moved yet, so it hasn't engaged that gear. So when I start letting out on the clutch, you'll hear it engage. It'll go pop. Oh, no, it was close enough from the first pop the first time. Okay, so it's not going to, but sometimes you'll hear that. And you'll notice, if you see somebody jump on a bike and it's running, they'll pull it in gear and they'll tap it and you'll hear it go pop. And if you watch the rear wheel, you'll see the chain jump, which is something cool to know. Okay, so what you want to do at this point is you've got the bike running, you've got the bike in gear, and you've got the clutch engaged, or disengaged. Now I'm going to show you here. Hopefully you'll be able to see the ground move. There, you can see that. The bike, as I let the clutch out, it slowly rolls the bike forward. Now with my right foot here on the ground, I'm actually pushing the bike back, holding it back so it doesn't go rolling off. And if I had my hand free, I would have my thumb on the kill switch if I was a new learner, of course. That way, if it starts to leak, if I let it out too fast, because if you let it out too fast, the bike jumps forward or it dies. You see, I flipped it out. Okay, so I killed it. So now it's not in gear. So what I got to do, or it's in gear. So what I got to do is, you can pull the clutch in, or you can leave it out when the engine's not running. I'm going to leave it out, and I'm going to pull up on the shifter. I'm going to stick my toe underneath it, like this, and lift up. Now the way this bike is designed, it's designed to go into neutral. It won't go into second. Some of your older bikes will go directly into second if you pull up too far. You have to like try to just pull up just enough till you feel it like pop. Not really pop, but like cut, let loose. You'll feel like it kind of lets loose on your top of your toe, and then that'll be neutral. And sometimes that's a skill in itself, just to get it to do that. Okay, so we've got it back in neutral, and we still have the ignition on. You can see the lights lit here, and of course we have our kill switch here, and then below that we have our starter. Let's start it back up, and excuse me there, didn't mean to belch in your ear. Okay, enough of that belching stuff. Still digesting my food. So what we're going to do here is we pull the clutch in, which disengages your engine, and we push down on the shifter, which engages it. Take a real mental note here, not all machines will have the same gear pattern. I would say 99% of them, it's one down for your lower gears are for your slower speed. The lower the number, the slower for the slower speeds. So the lower the gear, the slower the speed. Lower and slower. Okay? Higher the gear, the higher the speed. Pretty easy to figure out. Okay? So if you're going really fast, you should be in a higher gear. How you judge that is by your tachometer. Normal operating speeds, just cruising around town, you probably shouldn't brake above 4,000 RPM. And most bikes, their break-in period, they don't want you to go above 4,000 RPM as the cylinders adjust themselves to a proper mating inside there in the bearings and everything, and all that stuff has to wear in. Some people say go ahead and beat it right away after you seat the rings. Yeah, you can, but the problem is the tolerances are so close that it can actually not burn, but the two pieces are so close together, and there's not enough oil residue build up on the metal that it'll be like metal on metal, and it will heat the two metals up to their melting points. And at some point what will happen is they'll peel off like a craftsman's wood lathe or something. You know, how they take the chisel and they can like peel up a piece of wood and it curls up. And it can do that inside the engine. And it will stop it. It'll bring it to a screeching halt and pretty much be a blown engine. Most of the time it won't do that. It just starts smoking blues really bad, but a lot of your newer bikes have special engines and stuff in them, your more quality bikes. Some of your smaller bikes are going to be a lot cheaper, probably just standard steel. Okay, so this is number 3, and the exercise for number 3 was learning to disengage the engine from the rear wheel by pulling in the clutch and pushing down to take you into neutral. And then what you want to do is hundreds and hundreds of thousands of times is slowly let on the clutch so it starts to pull the bike forward. You can see the ground moving when I let out on it. It starts to pull me forward. I can actually take off without any gas to the clutch by just slowly letting the clutch out, and it makes me roll faster. I got both my feet down right now. You can't see it, but I got both my feet down, and I'm using my feet to slow me down and stop me again. Okay? Now, I had the clutch in, you saw that, and what you didn't see, I didn't mention it, but I subconsciously reached down and pulled it up into neutral. That's first. Probably heard that little click there. when I let out on the clutch. I let out on the clutch, and that's when you heard that bump in the drivetrain. I pulled up just ever so gently on that, and it just barely popped. And then that put me in neutral. And then I can also let the clutch out fully once it's in neutral. But you want to see that light on the dashboard before you let your clutch out. If you don't see that light, you can of course just shut the ignition off and the engine will stop and you can let the clutch out at that point. Okay? But what I want you to do for this is hold your clutch in, drop her in gear, and practice. Let it out, pull it in. You don't want to kill the engine. If you let it out and kill the engine, that's bad. You just want to like work it gently, so it's like less than 1%, barely engaged. That way you learn that, there's an engagement spot there. And you can also, do that engagement slowly. Okay, and on we go.